Hello, sports fan. Jim Sproul, Michael Dugan here with VIP Sportsnet, and today we're going to be talking about college football and the week that was, and some pretty good games this last week, wasn't there, Michael?
Oh yeah, some really good games. I was really surprised and happy that my Colorado Buffaloes beat Nebraska. But I know you got some great games that you have outcomes on. Why don't you go ahead and start us off?
Yeah, let me go through the top 25 here and we'll see where we were. We had Virginia beating William and Mary 52-17. We had number 24 USC defeating Stanford 45-20. That was a close game at one point. Then we had the Washington Huskies got beat this week. Ooh, not good. And then we had Boise State defeating Marshall 14-7, a lot closer than anybody thought. I'm sorry, folks, I forgot to tell you that Washington lost to Cal. And where were we? Maryland just throttled Syracuse 63-20. Number 20, Washington State defeated Northern Colorado 59-17. Then we had our Iowa Hawkeyes defeated Rutgers 38-0. Then we had number 18, Michigan State defeated Western Michigan 51-17. We had number 17, University of Central Florida defeated Florida Atlantic 48-14. Then we had the real big game of the week in Clemson. We had Texas A&M, number 16, Texas A&M. They lost to Clemson 24-10. We had number 15, Oregon defeated Nevada 77-6. Then we had number 14, Wisconsin defeated Central Michigan 61-0. Then we had number 13, Penn State defeated Buffalo 45-13. We had number 12, Texas lost to LSU 45-38. Then we had number 11, Utah Utes defeated Northern Illinois 35-17. We had Michigan escaping a close one to Army 21-24 in double overtime. We had Florida defeated UT Martin 45-0. We had Auburn slipping by Tulane 24-6. We had number 7 Notre Dame off. We had the Ohio State, number 6, defeated Cincinnati 42-0. We had number 5 Oklahoma defeating South Dakota State 70-14. We had LSU, aforementioned LSU beating Texas 45-38. Then we had number 3 Georgia defeating Murray State 63-17. Then we had Alabama defeating New Mexico State 62-10. And then we had Clemson, of course, beating A&M 24-10. All righty. What games do you want to talk about first, Michael?
Jim, one game I was really looking forward to and I was really, really happy to watch was Colorado and Nebraska. Growing up in Colorado, I always got to see Nebraska play Colorado the day after Thanksgiving, so it was good. They haven't played in a couple of years, and that game led up to memories of the good old days for the Buffaloes. Nebraska was up 17-0 up to the third quarter, but then Colorado comes back and scores 24 points in the fourth quarter.
I know that. Colorado was just dead in the water. But this game just stopped that Nebraska hype train. It just got derailed.
Yeah, they're saying that because Nebraska lost their bowl game chances are gone, and Colorado's kind of an outside looking in the top 25.
Nebraska's going to a bowl. Everybody goes to a bowl game this year. You only have to win 6 games, and the way Nebraska fans travel, they'll go to a bowl game. People make sure of that one, but their chances for the Big Ten pretty much derailed.
Yep, but Nebraska had 3 sacks, but the Buffaloes, they had 6. They were just very dominant. They spoke up. They woke up in the fourth quarter, and then in overtime to win it at home in Colorado, and that was just good to see a full arena of fans. Just like I said, brought me back to the glory days of Colorado, Nebraska. So what other game has you on your mind, Jim?
Well, I wanted to go in. The passing yards, the yardage was almost even on these two teams, 469 to 464, but Colorado's ability to pass, they had 375 yards passing. The rushing, Nebraska won that 179 to 89. Penalties, sloppy game, both of them had 65 yards and penalties, 5 turnovers. Nebraska had 3. They had 2 fumbles lost and interception. Time of possession was close. It was right there. Just Colorado they never gave up. And I don't want to say Nebraska got overconfident and laid down, but, man, those two teams know each other well from the Big 8 days and the Big 12 days. So familiarity is not there anymore, but the two fan bases certainly are familiar with each other and the history. And it was a game that I think the Pac-12 needed that win, because people have been looking down on them since the USC glory days, earlier in the 2000s. So this is a big statement game for Colorado.
Oh, yeah. I was just, because I'm a fan of Colorado, because I was born and raised there. But, man, I was just so happy to see that win, because it was kind of like the old Michigan. Well, how to say, it's not, if you don't beat Nebraska growing up, it's not winning the season no matter how you go. So being Nebraska, I was happy for the rest of the evening. I was just glad my team won.
Yep. Next game we're going to talk about. Yeah, I was wanting to look at this Maryland team. They thrashed Syracuse 63-20, and I'm just trying to see if they're for real. I mean, they've scored 142 points in their first 2 games. I mean, they just ran the ball like crazy. Their running backs, Javon Leak had 7 carries for 107 yards. He was averaging, and he had 2 touchdowns. He averaged 15.3 yards a carry.
Right.
And then Jake Funk had 5 carries for 94 yards and a touchdown. He averaged 18.8 yards a carry.
And, the funny thing is they only punted the ball 3 times the whole game. And, last year they came off a record of 5-7.
Yeah. But, it's their quarterback. He's a graduate transfer from Virginia Tech. He had 354 yards rushing to 70 rushes by Syracuse. So I'm looking forward to this team. They've got to go play Temple, who can sometimes put up pretty good defense. But that's just an intriguing game, because that was the most points that Maryland's ever scored versus a ranked opponent, coming in the game. Syracuse was the 21st team in the country. And, man, this was just a whooping.
For me, Maryland has always been there. They, if you remember a couple of years ago, they beat Texas.
Well, they beat them 2 years in a row.
Yeah, so that's, yeah.
But, yeah, this is a different team. This offense they run, that run-pass option they do, man, that just catches a lot of people off guard, and Syracuse obviously was just not ready at all. I mean, 650 yards is what they gave up. They passed the ball well, too. I mean, they had 296 yards passing to go along with 354 yards rushing.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking at the offense of Syracuse. I mean, it wasn't really bad numbers. 21 out of 38 for Josh Jackson, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. But that defense they sacked 4 times. I mean, it was just a dominant game for Maryland. If I was in Maryland, I would be really happy. 142 points in 2 games, only giving up 20 points.
Keandre Jones, he had a big day for Maryland. He had 2 sacks. I'm going to keep an eye on this team because I want to see if they're for real or not. They're going to, of course, the competition is going to get a lot stiffer going into the Big Ten play. But, this upcoming week, they're going to play Temple, and then after that, then it's all big boys from the Big Ten after that.
So what other game do you have that you want to talk about?
I want to talk about California going to Washington and beating those guys, man. That was kind of an exciting game, after a 3-hour lightning delay.
Yeah, that 3 hours. That's a good fan base to stay in. I mean, to be out there to still root for that game. But man, it was a good close game.
What's funny? By the end of the game, there was just that stadium was nearly empty. You saw in that corner was a corner of California fans. They were the only ones that stuck around to watch it. As Greg Thomas kicked that 17-yard field goal with 8 seconds left. This second year in a row that Cal's upset these boys. It came down to lot of turnovers. And Washington moved the ball, but they kicked too many field goals. They kicked 4 field goals, with that last 49-yarder with 2 minutes left. And then, Cal comes down the field. They were aided by a pass interference penalty, but, they got down there to kick that 17-yard field goal, which was shorter than an extra point to seal the win. But
don't get anything wrong with Cal. Cal is 2-0. Their division is really wide open this year in the Pac-12. Pac-12 in general is just wide open for anyone. Go back to that Colorado game. Colorado is 2-0. USC
is 2-0. Yeah.
There's that division.
Well, this was a shocker for me because, as you know, in our preview show, I had Washington ranked number 16 in my top 20.
Right, and I had them at number 17. So we
we're
were both kind of a little wrong a little bit.
Plus it's a Pac-12 game they lost, so it's definitely going to have repercussions in the conference.
Granted, this is only week 2. Things could happen, but
like I said, you already lost the conference game at this point, so. When I looked at it, the stats were somewhat close. They both ran the ball really well. They're averaging over 4 yards a carry, both teams. And it just came down to those turnovers. They lost a fumble and an interception, and that was the deciding factor.
And both quarterbacks were under pressure. The Cal was able to get to Washington about 4 times.
4 sacks.
And Washington got 3. So it was a hard-hitting game, but, you kind of takes the fun of it when it's a 2.5-hour, 3-hour delay. It kind of takes the
severe weather.
For the players to get refocused after waiting for 3 hours. Kind of, if they didn't have a weather delay, I think that game would have been a lot more high scoring, and Washington maybe could have pulled it off. You just never know what's going to happen in the Big 12 and Pac-12, so.
Well, the next game I want to talk about, let's stay in the Pac-12, and we'll talk about USC defeating Stanford, okay? The University of Spoiled Children, 2-0 versus Stanford here, so let's dive into that one too. Yeah, man, staying in the Pac-12, talk about the University of Spoiled Children's victory over Stanford. And I guess it all starts with the freshman quarterback, Kendon Slovis, man. 377 yards, Michael.
Wow.
Freshman. He come out there, he was 28 of 33, averaging 11 yards per attempt. He was throwing it down the field, no interceptions. Neither team really rushed the ball that particularly well. Both teams were heavily penalized, Stanford had 7 and USC had 8.
That's a typical game with USC and going on with them,
Yeah, they had a fumble, the time of possession, actually, Stanford held the ball more because, they're going to come out trying to run the ball, but they didn't as well. 98 yards, that ain't Stanford.
Mm-mm.
When you look at all these running backs like Bryce Love and everything they've had in the past and
McCaffrey and
the way they've always tried to use that. But you know what? They talked about going to a more air raid style this year, and I was like, why would you recruited all these big offensive linemen to play big boy football, the big tight ends and everything. Why do you want to get away from that? That's work for you. That's got you to some great records and bowl games and stuff. And now
the last 2 Stanford games I watched, the first game, they barely won. It was a very not like the normal Stanford games, not high. It was very boring, very And
see, but the boring used to be their thing because they would come out there and play big boy football. They got these big offensive linemen. They're physical as all get out on defense, and they don't usually commit a lot of penalties because you kind of have to be somewhat intelligent to get into that school. Discipline's always is one of their strengths. But this game, man, they were just they went for it twice on 4th down and failed. Didn't run the ball well. Only passed 237 yards. That's not what you're used to seeing from a Stanford team. You see Stanford and they come out there and inflict their will, on people. But that was not the case in this game. So
what other game did you like to see?